What's up, everybody? Ben Grove here with my Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum Cube retrospective. I did one of these for the Sun and Moon era, and I talked about the most impactful cards for Cube from every set in the era. We're going to do the same thing for the Gen 4 era. If you are a little bit unfamiliar with what a cube is, it's basically a custom curated format of cards that you draft with a group of friends at the table and build decks and battle it out. And it's my favorite way to play the Pokemon trading card game. It's just a format that's going to enable creativity and unique interactions with cards that maybe never existed at the same time together. So it's an awesome thing to do. If you want to get more information on cubes, or maybe see some cubes and build one or play one yourself, go check out cubekoga.net. It's one of my favorite websites on the internet. But we're just gonna go ahead and hop right into the sets here. And so, coming into the Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum era, you'll see that the cards that I highlight from each set are a lot more Pokemon heavy than they might have been in Sun and Moon. And I think from this era, Pokemon was really in their heyday of trying out some really cool cards and unique design spaces. And so there's a lot of really great Pokemon that you see in Cube that are from this era. Now, the first set here, Diamond and Pearl, not too many cards I think were really worthy of a highlight, except for so these three level X's. And the level X mechanic is very similar to Pokemon Break, except that it only happens in the active spot. Basically, that's the only real difference. But the Gen 4 starters each got their own level X in the set, and they have some really cool Pokepowers. Torterra has a gusting effect if you're behind on prizes. Infernape has basically a drawing through your deck effect that powers up its big flare-up attack. And Empoleon's got a really controlling effect that we're going to talk about in a second. No spoilers here. But other than that, there's a couple other unique and cool Pokemon here. This Empoleon is just a really solid attacker. The Rhyperior is the first in a Rhyperior milling strategy, and Professor Rowan is just a solid consistency supporter, if not on the lower power end. But it's got a unique effect. But my pick for the most impactful card from the Diamond and Pearl set is Empoleon Level X. Its Supreme Command Pokepower, which reads, once during your turn, you may choose up to 2 cards from your opponent's hand without looking at them and put them face down next to the defending Pokemon. These cards are not in play or in your opponent's hand. At the end of your opponent's next turn, return those cards to your opponent's hand, and it can't be used if opponent's affected by a special condition. This is the kind of effect that would not be printed today. Basically putting cards from your opponent's hand in some weird limbo space on the board, but not in play, not in your opponent's hand. But your opponent isn't able to use them during their next turn. It's a really cool effect, and it has a lot of really cool implications and things you can do with this. In the cube space, I think this Empoleon is really great when it plays from behind, and you can power up that Hydro Impact attack, which is pretty tough to power up with three water energies. You can power it up with a Scramble energy if you're already behind. Maybe combine that with cards like Roxanne to set your opponent down to 2 cards in hand. Then you Supreme Command them, and you take those 2 cards out of their hand. Or maybe you're using this Empoleon here is from Platinum with a knockoff attack, so you can use that attack from the Empoleon instead of Hydro Impact. So you're putting your opponent down to a smaller hand size. There's a lot of things basically that can support this Empoleon in being a really controlling and come from behind attacker. The Hydro Impact attack that it has is also an 80 damage snipe, so it really it can snipe your opponent's draw engine off the board. It can snipe a Delcatty, and then all of a sudden your opponent is just dead in the water, and then you incrementally come back through the game. It's a really powerful card, and it's got a unique effect that's interesting to build a deck around. So I think this is the perfect encapsulation of a cube card. It's really fun to play with. Maybe not so much against sometimes, but it's a great cube card. All right, next up is Mysterious Treasures, and we're continuing with a bunch of level X's you can see here. But first we've got Bronzong, which is just a good consistency engine that is at the much lower power end. It's draw 1, then discard 1. If you discard an energy, you get to draw a bonus 1. So it's a little bit underpowered, but that can be good for some cubes. Typhlosion has a fire starter Pokepower that we've seen before on a Blaziken in Ruby Sapphire era. And this Ariados has the, like, your Pokemon has a 1 more to retreat cost, which is a common effect that you see on this type of guy. Then there's actually some really good consistency supporters and trainers from the set. Baby Search is a classic from this era. Night Maintenance is not the first of its effect, but shuffling back in 3 of Pokemon and energy from your discard pile is a pretty important one. Time Space Distortion is worth a mention, but it's very flippy. You have to flip 3 coins on it. But I think once again that the power from this set really comes from the level X's, with some really unique attacks or abilities. The Electivire basically just like challenges your opponent to do something. Like, yeah, I dare you to put a Pokemon tool in play. I dare you to put a stadium in play. I dare you to attach energy. So that's very cool. And the Magmortar amplifies burn damage and has a really strong sniping attack. Very strong in the right cube. Both of those guys are. But my pick from this set is definitely Lucario level X. It's definitely a favorite of mine. It's in my personal IRL cube. The Stance Pokepower, once during your turn, when you put Lucario level X from your hand onto your active Lucario, you may use this power, prevent all effects of attack, including damage, done to Lucario during your opponent's next turn. And close combat does 3 for 80, which is good. And funnily enough, the downside basically gets blocked by Stance. So I really like the design of this card. The damage prevention is very strong, but it does have its ways you can work around it. Like I have Warp Point up on the screen here. If you kick Lucario out of the active, the effect isn't active anymore. You can also, if you've got sniping effects, you can snipe around Lucario. It doesn't protect your bench. But it's also an effect that has a way to build a deck around it, essentially, too. Like if you have cards like AZ, where you're just putting it back into your hand, and then you slam the Lucario level X down onto another Lucario, and you're getting a ton of value out of the Pokepower. And the great thing with that is Lucario, a lot of the Lucarios are very low to the ground. They're really good attackers that are attacking for 1 or 2 energy. So this Lucario really plays into, it's just like, I am an efficient attacker. I am going to make some really cool power plays. And one thing I love about Cube is making impactful plays that my opponent just is like, oh my god, that was so cool. And like you've totally destroyed my strategy because of this unexpected play. And a card like this really facilitates that. So love this Lucario. Next up is Secret Wonders, and boy, this set has some famous cards in it. Telepass Gardevoir. I've actually kind of seen this card go out of favor in high-powered cubes. It is definitely not one to put in a mid-power like a Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5 era. It needs to be at the tippy top because the Pokepower is so strong. The Gallade also has a really, it's another one of those, like they were really toying with an interesting face, and I don't think this kind of effect would happen anymore with its attack that flips over your prize cards and it does extra damage for the amount that you flip face up, which is basically just like a non-repeatable damage boost to its attack, which I think is very cool. Jamming Ampharos. Ampharos is kind of a classic cube line because there aren't that many Lightning Stage 2s. It's a classic one that is just going to dare your opponent to play supporter cards. Electivire with Motor Drive is one of the first Stage 1 accelerate lightning energy from the discard. It only goes to Electivire itself, but there's ways to play around that. This Magmortar is a pretty famous attacker. There's a lot of really good attacking Pokemon from this era. The Suicune with the Aqua Recover is an interesting Pokemon recovery option that is an on play ability. You don't see many of those, but it is a very good ability for water types. The Minun with minus charge is basically Pheasantipity EX, but on a little cute little guy. It only draws 2 cards, but it's still a very good effect in Cube. And then there's a couple level X's that are really strong from this set too, that just kind of amplify the power of those particular lines. But my favorite card from this set is Roseanne's Research. Really just a classic supporter card. Search your deck for up to 2 and any combination of basic Pokemon and basic energy cards. Show them to your opponent and put them into your hand. This is the kind of card where you're never upset that you're putting it in your deck. It's very middle of the road. It's not the craziest effect in the world, but the thing that's so good about it is it's so flexible and it's useful at any point in the game. It might not be the biggest power play that you've ever played, but it's going to be something that's going to be advancing your board state. It compares pretty well to like modern cards like Sonia. Sonia is just basically worse Roseanne's Research that they printed at a much later date. And yeah, you don't get the option of mixing and matching with Sonia. You either pick one or the other, which is not as strong as Roseanne's. It also plays favorably around cards like Collector. I do think Collector is a little bit stronger. Just getting 3 is stronger than 2. But the great thing about Roseanne's is the flexibility. Sometimes in the first turn, you need an energy attachment. Roseanne's can get you the energy attachment. Sometimes you just need 2 basics. You can get the 2 basics with Roseanne's. It's not a card that you are snap picking, pack one, pick one, but it is. Cards like this are a backbone of Cube, and I'll be really sad if the Pokemon Company prints cards that basically invalidate this, but they haven't yet. Roseanne's Research, awesome Cube card, and hopefully will be for decades to come. On the flip side here, when we move into Great Encounters, we're basically talking about no trainer cards. I didn't find any trainer cards that were worth mentioning here, but tons of Pokemon. The Sceptile with Wild Growth here, doubling up your grass type energy when attached to grass Pokemon. It's not the first time this effect is printed, and it won't be the last. This one's definitely not the strongest iteration. The Washout Swampert, we have other famous Washout users out there. Serene Grace Togekiss. When you play this Togekiss, you look at the top. I think this one looks at the top 10 cards and attaches basic energy from there to your Pokemon. One of the strongest versions of this effect out there. It's a really great card. Claydol is very infamous in Cube. I think it's a great Cube card. You have to be in the right Cube to use it. But it's a fun card to draft around and very rewarding if you're able to pull it off, and it's the kind of thing that I do always really enjoy. Cresselia level X is a devastatingly good Cube card. It's the kind of card that has it enables you to make power plays with Full Moon Skip, taking an extra prize if you attack and KO with it, and its Full Moon Dance kind of facilitates the number wiggling that you have to do when you're only doing 40 damage a turn to get that KO to go off. And this Palkia is a card that, like, when you find the right cube for it, it's really cool. It definitely needs to be in a cube that has like a deck that you can see the vision that you build around it. And Unknown G and Slowking are just like good. They're good options, I would say, in a mutant cube space, or in Unknown G specifically in a cube that's built around this Gen 4 era, because it was a major player in Standard back in the day. But I think the top card from this set is definitely Porygon 2. It's funny, it is not the strongest consistency stage 2 or stage 1 in the set, but I think it's the one that best fits for Cube, because Claydol is sometimes a little weird to play around. But it's download Pokepower. Once during your turn, you may discard a supporter card from your hand and use that effect as the effect of this power. It can't be used if Porygon is affected by a special condition. I've mostly seen this work as enabler for really strong controlling archetypes. Whether it's I'm discarding Lusamine to get back 2 supporters, and I'm going to use one of those 2 supporters, or I'm using it to like use Team Flare Grunt to slow my opponent down. Plus, I'm then going to use, like, for turn, I'm going to play just like a consistency supporter so that my setup is still going well. Or it's really facilitating just like looping some cards. There are some cubers out there that don't like the looping aspect. Yeah, I'm going to play Cynthia and Caitlyn for turn, and then I'm going to download Lusamine and get Cynthia and Caitlyn back. Some people really like that pattern of play and having that in their cubes. Some people do not. So play at your own risk, but I think it can be kind of cool. And this Porygon plays really well with a lot of other controlling colorless mons that are out there. You kind of just want to look like, for inspiration, if you want to look at some like controlled GLC colorless decks. Like, I mean, this Porygon can't be played in GLC, but it fits right into the ethos of those decks. And a card like Search for Friends Delcatty, if you're getting back 2 supporters, then you can use both of them that turn with download. Seems pretty good to me. So really strong card. It is not as strong as like if you think about Backup Porygon 2, which is I think in general a stronger card than this one. It's not as strong as that, but when it's built around, it's very strong. So this is not a card that I would like if I'm opening up my last pack of the draft and I see this card. I'm probably not getting it because I probably haven't built my deck in the right way. But if I see this in the first pack and I can plan to have like 16, 17, 18 solid supporters in my deck, then I can really get the value out of this card. All right, next up is Majestic Dawn, and this was a big EV set, as you can tell. And a couple of these EVs are just like generically good EV cards. If you have an EV line, evolution line in your cube, these are awesome. The Espeon buffs health of Pokemon that evolve from EV, and the Umbreon gives them free retreat. Then the Leafeon is accelerating energy, or the Glaceon is shutting down Pokepowers. So like there's like this set has like all of the key key cards to enable flexibility in the EV evolution lineup. Other cards from this set, Call Energies. It's really cool. It plays very similar to Capture Energy, but it's a little bit slower and needs the right deck to work. This card, I see it in a lot of cubes. I don't always pick it because it's the kind of card that you really would want like 4 of in your deck, because then you can guarantee you get it on the first turn. So use with caution, but it's a cool effect. Chatot and this Rotom are 2 great cards as your attacker at the beginning of the game to set you up for success. Chatot drawing you more cards, or Rotom, if you've filtered some energy through your hand and discarded them, you can use the dual trans for free and power those energy up onto your Pokemon. This Empoleon, there's a lot of really great Empoleon cards, and this Dual Splash has some really cool sniping effects, and the Surf Together is another like really interestingly designed attack. But the number 1 card here by far is Unknown Q. Once during your turn, if Unknown Q is on your bench, you may discard all cards attached to it and attach it to one of your Pokemon as a Pokemon tool. As long as Unknown Q is attached to a Pokemon, you pay 1 less to retreat that Pokemon. This card is really, really good in Cube, and it was really good in Standard way back in the day. It plays very similar to a card like Rescue Board, where it's just you slap it on and your Pokemon has 1 less retreat. But the really cool thing is that you can search for it with cards like Bridget, or so a really insane turn 1 play in Cube is like, yeah, I'm going to Bridget for Unknown Q and my preferred like starting attacker of choice, like an Alolan Vulpix, and another one of my like evolving basics for my attacking lines. I can get all 3 of those guys. I'll put Unknown Q on my active to retreat it out, and then I'll use a Alolan Vulpix to beacon for some Pokemon, and with all that I've done there, I still have my energy attachment for turn, and I can attach that onto one of my evolving basics at this point. It's an insane card that really can pull off a lot of early game value for you, and just like even if you don't pull off the insane turn 1 play with it, like you're just gonna get good value out of it through the middle of the game. I think a great card that highlights what you can do with it is Tatsugiri. It's just Tatsugiri is a card with a really good effect, but it's an insane effect if you have Unknown Q or a Float Stone or something attached to it that allows you to use it in the mid game. And Unknown Q is probably it's better in a draft than any Pokemon tool that has a similar effect. Float Stone or Fluffy Berry, it's comparable to, and it depends on your deck. If you have reasons that you need the extra retreat over 1, then yeah, Float Stone can be better. But Unknown Q, just the searchability of it is what really makes this card so good. And to top it off, it has free retreat itself. So if you start it at the beginning of the game, that's perfect. That's kind of what you want. It can get donked though with 30 HP, which is kind of funny, and I have seen that happen before. The psychic weakness, like if you have something that does 20 damage for 1 energy, like Unknown Q itself, it can get donked, which is very funny, but it's the kind of funny thing that can happen in Cube. All right, Legends Awakened, which I think is it has famously some of the probably one of the strongest cards ever printed in Setup Uxie, which is Shaman EX. It's the same setup, except when you play this one down, you draw up to 7 cards in your hand, and this guy isn't a rule box Pokemon, so you're only forfeiting 1 prize if it gets knocked out. So the entire Lake Trio is in this set, and they're all really good. Setup Uxie I mentioned. Psychic Bind from Mesprit. When you play Mesprit down to your bench, you can lock your opponent out of Poke Powers on their next turn, which can be really strong in the right decks. It's definitely not a card for every cube, but the cubes that can use it it really, really uses it. And Azelf, Time Walk, I don't know if you can see from the picture. We're going to be talking about Time Walk in a bit. Other great cards from the set, the Regirock and Stark Mountain are like a staple cube combo. Regirock, you discard 2 energy and you get an energy attached to it, and then you can move that energy anywhere on your board from Stark Mountain. This Kingdra is a really strong, efficient attacker. And the Gliscor it's very similar to the Lucario level X. It's the kind of fighting, a strong, efficient fighting attacker that you pair with an AZ, and it really just goes to the moon. Another really fun build around card for a deck. And Cynthia's Feelings, just a great card. Great consistency card, but it's not winning any awards. The award from this set, it does not go to Uxie. Uxie, I don't think, is the most impactful. It's very strong. Sometimes it might be too strong for some cubes. And sometimes it's Shaman EX is better because you do have that trade-off of, it is a 2-prizer, so there is some cost to playing it. So sometimes Uxie isn't right for cube, but Azelf is right for every cube, I think, in my opinion. And on top of that, everybody, I hear so many talking heads in the Pokemon space complain about checking your prizes and prizes being a really negative part of the game. Well, if Pokemon would reprint Time Walk Azelf, all the problems would be solved. Time Walk Azelf, with Time Walk, once during your turn, when you put Azelf from your hand onto your bench, you may look at all your face down prize cards. If you do, you may choose 1 Pokemon you find there, show it to your opponent, and put it into your hand. Then you swap a card from your hand and put it into a prize card face down. Absolutely insane ability, and it's the kind that you don't see all the little details about it at face value first, but we're gonna go through them all because it's so good. So it plays very favorably towards like a card like Hisuian Heavy Ball, which was a pretty staple card when it was in standard. But the crazy thing is, it can get any Pokemon. It doesn't just get basics; it gets any Pokemon. Which basically means you can turn a failed deck search of just like, okay, I'm gonna play a card like here I have Quick Ball. It's not in standard anymore, but like you play a Quick Ball, you're looking for your basic. Oh, it's not in there. Oh, I'll just get Azelf instead, and then I'll play Azelf down, and then I'll be able to search my prizes and get the card that I was intending to get anyway. So it's a really interesting kind of, it ends up being kind of a search card. Like if you've already seen into your deck and you know what's in your prizes, then you can basically use Azelf as a ball, you can use your ball search to get Azelf to get whatever is in your prizes, which I think is so cool. Additionally, the one piece of text that's on here that it does not say shuffle your prizes. It's not like Gladion that you have to shuffle your prizes up after you've used Gladion. You can know the position of all of your prizes, and frankly, it's not a broken thing to be able to know which one all of your prizes is. I think that's actually like a fair thing, and is a fair part of Pokemon gameplay. Is you're gonna end up taking the prize card that you want. I think that's something that people really enjoy, and it's really fun to just be able to map that out. And so this Azelf is just, it would solve so many problems if it were printed into standard. It solves so many problems in Cube, because Cube, a lot of the times you have singleton lines. I've got my 1/1/1 line of this one Pokemon. Oh, I'm missing the topper, and I already have the stage 1 in play. Oh, I'll just get Azelf, and that solves all that problems. And then like, okay, I have like I have these singleton supporters in my prizes that are really important, or my one recovery piece is in the prizes. Well, I can map it out with Time Walk. I know which prize is which, so I can take the right one at the appropriate time. This card is a must pick highly card in Cube. It really just enables you to play with a lot stronger certainty, and really just beefs up the consistency of your deck so much. And like the only cost is a bench spot, and that's it. So I can't sing the praises of this card highly enough. So highly that I think it's better than draw up to 7 on play with setup Uxie. So Azelf, an all-timer in Cube for sure. All right, next up we've got Stormfront, and Stormfront's got a really wide breadth of really interesting cards. Regigigas, the sacrifice of Pokepower on Regigigas is really cool, and it is the kind of Cube deck that like you need a package built into your cube to facilitate it. But when it works, it's really fun and really cool. Same thing with the Dusknoir level X, a really cool card that I don't think gets enough love or use. Luxury Ball is just Master Ball done in a really interesting way. It's not right for every cube, because sometimes we want, like, the A-Spec tag is good to limit things, but you could theoretically have an A-Spec and this card in your deck. Energy Trans Sceptile, yes, we're just copy pasting all the grass stage 2 effects onto Sceptile during this generation. The Magnezone just accelerates lightning, or I think it accelerates lightning or metal energy to your active, which is a really solid ability to have. Marley's Request, I think I talked about this in my Sun and Moon retrospective with Countercatcher, but a really cool, unique card for control. You would probably think that my pick from this set would be Sableye. It's a very famous card, and very famously is a card that kind of broke Pokemon with its Pokebody letting it go first, and its incredibly consistent attack. with Impersonate, and then its attack that's very aggressive. But I don't think Sableye plays as well in Cube as it did in Standard, because in Standard you could attack going first, and a lot of times if you're playing a Cube that has like the rules are just like the turn 1 rules going first, I think Sableye loses a little bit of its value because it's setting itself to go first, but it can't attack when it does it. Now, not obviously going first 100% of the time if you start Sableye is still good, but it's just a card that doesn't see its full value when you play it in Cube. However, a card that does see its full value is this Bronzong. It's absolutely insane. It's a really cool card in Cube. So the Cycler Pokepower, once during your turn, you swap a card from your hand and then get 2 basic energy cards from your deck. And then it has really 2 cool, interesting, fun attacks. Strange Spin, if you've got the same number of cards in your hand as your opponent, it does 20 plus 40 and confuses. And then Heavy Potential does damage counters to your opponent's Pokemon equal to the number of colorless energy in their retreat cost. So this card is so good in so many different ways. In Bronzong has so many good iterations, and a lot of them are dealing with energy. We talked about that Miracle Oracle one earlier where you're drawing a card and then discarding a card, and if you discarded an energy, draw 1 more card. Well, Cycler Bronzong is going to facilitate that because you can just get the energy from your deck so that you can draw 2 cards with it. And then also, yeah, you can just play this like also with like Metal Links, which is then, okay, I'll get that energy that I just put into the discard pile. No, it's going to get attached to one of my bench Pokemon. So you can really conceivably have a strong 4 or 5 of Bronzong line in your cube with like 5 unique, really cool Bronzongs. And also then this card, it's really fun to play around, and you can include cards in your cube that are really good to enable its attacks. Whether it's Strange Spin and you have cards like Judge, which are going to set both you and your opponent to the same amount of cards in hand, or Team Aqua's Secret Base, which increases the retreat cost of your of all Pokemon in play, so you're doing more damage with the Heavy Potential attack. It's a card that you can build around in a lot of different ways, and therefore it's a really easy include for a lot of cubes. Especially if you already had a Metal Lynx or a Miracle Oracle in your cube, throw in a Cycler too. It's an awesome card, and it also like spices up the weakness and resistance of the Bronzong line. It's resistant to fire. It's got the heat proof ability, right? So really cool card, a card that you can play in a lot of different ways, and that's part of what I love about Cube is playing things in different and creative ways. So this is a card that really facilitates that. All right, moving into the last couple sets here in the Diamond and Pearl and Platinum era. We're finally in the Platinum block now. Yes, Platinum did bring about some new and unique effects in it with the owner's Pokemon and the SP coming back, right? So that's the one thing that's unique about this block, the Platinum block. But it still has the level X cards in it, which is why I've kind of lumped Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum together for this video. But hopping right in, yeah, you can see that there's already some of the SP cards included here, as well as Cyrus's Conspiracy, which is like your primo SP support engine. If you have a cube that uses that has a big package of Pokemon SP, Cyrus's Conspiracy is a card that you want to include maybe like a 3 of or a 4 of in that. It's just that good. The Manectric here is one of the like most fair ways to prevent bench damage in Cube. I think there are some people in the Cube community that steer away from like the Mr. Mime or the Mew bench barrier type things because they're hard to interact with. The Manectric here, it is at least, it's something that you can interact with because you can attack the Manectric first and then attack the other things. Damage Bind Ampharos is really cool. It pairs well with the jamming Ampharos because your opponent uses a supporter card, then damage gets spread to all their guys, and then they can't use any Pokepowers on them. So the Ampharos line in the right power level can be really, really controlling and really sticky and really a puzzle for your opponent to crack. The Psychic Connect Gardevoir moves energy around the board, and it also has an attack that's related to the amount of energy attached. It can be really strong in the right power level, and there are other Gardevoirs that facilitate it well, especially the one from Ruby and Sapphire, which gets extra psychic energy from the deck, or the one who doubles up the amount of psychic energy attached to psychic Pokemon in play. And the Blaziken here, it's a unique Blaziken. There's not a lot of other Blazikens that are built around burning, but it's a unique one. So definitely one worth a mention. The three SP cards though here are probably the ones that are the most interesting for Cube. Crobat G is a house. It's Galarian Zigzagoon, but it's got free retreat and 10 more health and a really good toxic attack. So Crobat G is something to be feared. And you can pair it well with Poketurn to scoop it back up to your hand to repeat that damage if you're really going for a full SP package. Palkia G has a really good but fair attack. Hydro Shot is very strong, but it's fair at 4 energy and discard 2. And Lost Cyclone is a much fairer version of the Dusknoir from this era that I didn't even include on any of these because it ain't fair. But limiting your opponent's bench size and having it be something that you have to play around this Palkia, it's a really cool and unique card. The strongest, though, and most impactful, in my opinion, is Skuntank G. The Poison Structure Pokepower. Once during your turn, if you have a Stadium card in play, you may use this. Each active Pokemon is now poisoned, except for Pokemon SP. Which, then, funnily enough, this power can't be used if Skuntank G is affected by a special condition. This card can be a really powerful card, and it's the kind of card I really like because you can structure your cube in a way to make it fit whatever your power level is. It's a card that you can use it as an enabler for some decks. Like there are like this Conkeldurr here with the Facade attack, which if this Pokemon is burned and poisoned, the attack does 60 more damage, which is pretty cool. If you want it just as kind of like a damage boost in your cube of like, okay, my cube is of the power level where I can handle the attacks doing this much more damage. Like you can throw in Verbank City Gym and suddenly, okay, like this is just Skuntank G is just a plus 30 damage every turn, as long as you can facilitate it well. And it also plays well with cards like Fluffy Berry or Floatstone. The Skuntank itself can't be poisoned by its own ability, so it's really cool. You can throw the Skuntank up in the active, use the ability, then with a Fluffy Berry attached, retreat for free, and then go into your attacker, and then you haven't poisoned yourself. Basically, like these 3 cards that I've included here with Skuntank to show like there's a lot of like really good decision making things that this card is going to enable in a draft, as well as decision making, like a decision tree of things that you have to sequence right in the gameplay with it too. So this promotes really good gameplay, this promotes really good drafting, and it's just a really fun card to use. You're boosting your own damage, and you're taking KOs that your opponent maybe didn't think you were able to take. You assemble the combo of, okay, I got Skuntank and Burbank, and then my attacks are doing basically, we're just doing 30 more damage, and it turns off cards like Raihan. Those are kind of plays that win games in Cube. So that's why I really like this card. It's really fun. I've won a Cube League basically off the back of Skuntank and Burbank. So I really like this card. It's in, and the Skuntank and the Conkeldurr are both in my IRL cube as a really cool poisoning archetype. So really fun card to play with. Yeah, Skuntank G. All right, moving on to Rising Rivals. We've got all Pokemon here, but once again, the Pokemon Company really played around with cool ideas in Gen 4. Starting off, I just want to highlight Hippowdon. I didn't pick it, but it's so cool. The Sand Reset Pokepower that you can use once per game. It's like a Proto GX attack, or I guess more like V-Star power, right? Because it's a Pokepower. Once per game, shuffle like all cards attached to Pokemon or in play into decks. So like all the energy, all the stadiums and stuff, just shuffle them all back into the deck. And there are Hippowdons out there that can build up energy from nowhere. I can really take advantage of the fact that you've shuffled all energy back and maybe your opponent can't keep up. So really cool card. It's a pretty one-of-a-kind thing that I think should be in more cubes. The Glade here with the Blade Storm, where when you level this up, you spread a damage counter to all your opponent's Pokemon. It plays really well with the basic Glade that goes under this, because it has an attack that spreads damage counters to anything that already has a damage counter on it. So it's its own engine within and of itself. You can play it with a lot of SPs, or you can play it by itself. Funnily enough, the Jolteon from this set with the undeveloped Jolteon here is another spread and damage counters around the board thing. The Roserade here is like a card that is included in so many cubes. It's just a really, really strong controlling card that can be put in a lot of decks for very little investment. The Poison Bind attack is really cool and really can slow the tempo of games down. Final Wish Jirachi is a good supportive card, but it's a card that can kind of be a trap sometimes. The Unlucky Wind Shiftry is a unique card, and in the right cube it can be really good. And Energy Refresh Leafeon it goes really well with the Leafeon level X from a couple sets ago, because you can heal a lot of damage because you get to attach extra energy with the Leafeon level X. So it can be a really strong card. But this is one of the most famous cards of all time. Luxray GL level X, and it's my pick for a reason here. Once during your turn, when you put Luxray GL level X from your hand onto your active Luxray GL, you may switch the defending Pokemon with one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It's just Gust. It's just Lycanroc GX. It's just Umbreon VMAX or Umbreon EX or whatever iteration. This one though is the strongest one of any of those. It was the deck back when it was in standard. And what really stands out about this card is how well it plays with cards that are much older, or much newer than it is. It's a really efficient attacker, 2 for 60, 110 HP on a stage 1 is pretty good. It's got a really strong ability with the gusting. It's got free retreat. It's got a lot of tools that really just kind of set it apart. And there's a lot of cubes as well where there's like a 1/1 Luxray GL line in too. So it's very much up there with Claydol, and like the drafting it is tough, but it's so rewarding if you get it. I know in Chaos Cube, I've gotten one of the two pieces like multiple times, and I've never been able to just like put it together, and have the gusting guy. If you play it in a dedicated SP package, it's got the ability to throw it back into your hand with Poke Turn and use it again, or Energy Gain to use its attack for just 1 energy. So there's a lot of things that can enable it. There's a lot of things that it also just plays well by itself. It's just a really strong card. Like even to this day, you put it with cards from the modern era, and this card kind of still holds up. All right, and moving into Supreme Victors here. There's a lot of SP level X's that are really great from this set. Staraptor FB with the fast call, getting supporters from your deck, is a really powerful thing. Garchomp Z is the other half of Lux Chomp, and its attack is very, very strong, and the healing breath Pokepower is no slouch either. Blaziken, I think, is actually one of my favorite SP level X's, because it just does, it's very similar to Luxray, where it just does a ton of damage, and it can play well with cards from a lot newer of eras, because you can just do 120 damage for 1 energy with the conditions being right. Magmortar, the Evolutionary Flame, kind of actually pairs well with Blaziken here. Echo Draw Dodrio is not very strong, but in a cube that if you want that kind of just like draw 1 as your supportive engines, can really play well. And Relicanth is it's a very low opportunity cost include for your cubes, because it's just it's just got 2 really solid attacks. Amnesia's great, and Grand Swell really targets down a lot of things that happen in Cube. You have a lot of random tools, you have a lot of random stadiums, and sometimes your opponent isn't prepared for that, and Grand Swell can really just pop off. My pick, though, from this set is Electivire FB, level X, the Energy Recycle Pokepower, which you can use once per turn, and if you do, your turn ends, search your discard pile for up to 3 energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Just a really cool ability that we have seen before. This ability did exist on a Swampert before, but this Electivire really just it's able to use itself as the engine a lot better than the Swampert can. You kind of see this card in cubes a lot with special energy that you can attach with this, because it doesn't just say basic energy, or with cards that have really funky energy costs, like this Grass Lightning Psychic on Latios Star. It's just a really good enabler of funky attack costs and going all in on some really powerful things, while you like have this Electivire sit in the active and say energy recycle turn after turn, and make your opponent hit in, activate the reversal energy or scrambler energy or whatever, and then you just go to town. The really cool thing is the Electivire FB basic, the dump and draw that it's got on it, discard 2 energy. You know what? That pairs pretty well with energy recycle. So it's kind of its own engine inbuilt of itself, and it can just kind of be a build around for a deck in the right kind of cube. And our final set from this era is the Arceus set. So once again, really unique and cool effects. The Salamence level X with the double fall when you evolve it or level it up. Any KOs that you do take 1 more prize card. Expert Belt, a really good cube card that I really like, because it's a card that has trade-offs to it, right? You're doing 20 more damage and getting 20 more HP, but you're also giving up 1 more prize card when it gets knocked out. The Tangrowth, this level X has kind of, there've been a couple cubes that I've played that this Tangrowth level X just really enabled like Tangrowth to be a cool, impactful cube line, which is not something you would expect. The Salamence, the top accelerator, we've seen a ton of top acceleration effects out there before this Salamence, but it's just really cool that another line has this ability in it. The other ones are like in a Tyranitar or a Walrein line, but a really good, fun. It's a fun mechanic that Cube can enable that maybe was a little too underpowered for standard. Cursegar is a classic. And Cube is another really good place where like the damage manipulation stuff about it is really fun to play around. But my top card from here is Spiritomb. Spiritomb, I think, plays. It was definitely back in the era that like you had Sableye or Spiritomb as your like starters in your deck. I think Spiritomb translates over to Cube a little bit better, because in Cube you have the like, I'm playing around between like stage 1 decks that are really gonna like aggressively go for the kill right off the bat and try and run my opponent off the table, or maybe I'm playing a stage 2 deck that sits back, takes a hit or two, and then activates Scrambler reversal energy, and then is really going to just like unleash its strategy after it's like admined its opponent and something like that. And the Spiritomb plays really well into that because it slows the game down. As long as Spiritomb is your active Pokemon, each player can't play any trainer cards. Now, remember, in Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, the trainer cards here is just referring to what we know today as item cards, but still pretty good to lock those down. And then you also just want this Spiritomb to be in your active because Darkness Grace is going to evolve your Pokemon up. Search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon. If you do, put a damage counter on Spiritomb. And this can be good with a lot of, like, these two examples that I pulled up here are just, like, some really good examples of some controlling and strong Pokemon that, like, you have to get started, but once you do, they can really control the game. There are cubes out there that, like, you can use Spiritomb to just, like, completely lock trainer cards until you've got the Vileplume in play, and then those nobody's playing those item cards in this game. In like a more powerful context, I think like Spiritomb could be really great to power up something like Decidueye, and like this Spiritomb can help you get multiple Decidueye into play a lot quicker, and while your opponent is kind of held back. So and I think this card it's also fair to play around and with, because in Cube it's not always there's not always such a premium on your deck is like totally filled with just all item cards. In Cube, you're probably running like 12, 13 supporters, which is a decent chunk. So you probably won't completely lock your opponent out of doing anything unless they've had a bad draw. So it's not the kind of thing where like I only had like 8 supporters in my deck and now I'm just screwed. There's a little bit of wiggle room around this card. That makes it a little fairer. Plus, it's putting damage counters on itself, so under the right situation, you can burst through this, and before your opponent has really had the chance to get their full setup and throw some things off. So it's very strong, but there is a little bit of wiggle room that you can play around with it. But it's perfect in cubes that really need the balance between the aggressive decks and the not as aggressive decks. All right, folks, and those are all of the most impactful cards from each set in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. I think that these sets are some of Cube's best by far. There's just so many cool interactive cards that have effects that we've never seen again, or just like some of the flat out most powerful cards for Cube out there. Opening up packs that have some of these powerful icons of the game are always a treat. It's always fun to try and piece together the Clay Doll line, or piece together the Luxray, or to just be slugging it out with some really cool level X's. I think the level X's, they're cards that look really cool, and the gameplay in them holds up, and it's really fun to use those. So I think there's a lot to pull out of Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, no matter what era your cube is built around. You can always pull in some cards from Diamond, Pearl, Platinum that are going to support whatever archetypes and ideas that you have in your cube. Make sure to let me know down in the comments what are your favorite cards from Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, and we'll see you next time with my next cube retrospective. I think I'm going to hit up Generation 3 next. So we'll see you next time, guys.